The final phase of this project is to add some layer styles to this and to add some filters. So let's look at the layer styles first. Now where you want to add these are to the actual picture that has the mask on it. The way that you add layer styles, they are, if you recall, the little FX button at the top, or the bottom of the layers panel for effects. So if you click on that, you have a lot of different options here. Any one of these that you click on is going to bring up the menu. And what that will allow you to do is kind of see what is happening as you're making changes. So if I want to add a drop shadow to this thing, I have the drop shadow one highlighted. I can change all these different sliders here, which you're going to want to do. You don't want to just go with the default settings because you can really kind of have a lot of different things happen depending on what you do here. So maybe I want this effect to be a little more subtle, but I want to give it that three-dimensional feel to it. So there you go. Because I messed with that, these ones down here, that kind of changed that. And I could also change the angle that this shadow occurs at. And again, just trust your eyes, play around and figure out what works. And again, the other big one is to drop or raise the opacity of that shadow depending on what you're looking for. So that will kind of get you started, a drop shadow. Now you may instead want to do an inner shadow. If I click here, it applies an inner shadow. The menu I'm still looking at, if you notice up top here, is for the drop shadow. To see this menu, I can't just click here, I have to click over here, and that then will show me the menu for the inner shadow. Well, let's say I decide I don't want that. I can uncheck it, it goes away. You may want to mess with, for this project, a drop shadow. You may want to try an inner shadow. You might want to try an outer glow for some of you, depending on your background. You may want to do a bevel and emboss for a few of you. If you have like real wide letters, maybe that'll work well. For skinny letters, it might kind of get blown out. And then finally, some of you may like a stroke on your project. I think that kind of looks nice. Now, as you add a stroke, it's just like Illustrator. We can change the color of that outline. To do that, that's right here, and again, we can change the size as well. So mess with these settings as you play with this, and add some layer styles to your project. I would say you want, obviously, at least one, but two would probably be good. As you kind of look through, just do what looks right. Don't blow your whole project out of proportion and kind of make it so it's hard to tell what's going on. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that. And if I wanted to go back in and adjust that, here's that drop shadow I did. I could just double click on that again. It'll bring it back up. I can also, if I wanted, turn the effects on and off, just like you can turn a layer on and off, just to kind of see what's happening. Alright, and then the last thing to finish this project off is filters. So to do that same layer, we are going to go to Filter. There's a whole bunch of different choices in Photoshop. And the one I want to go to is going to be Filter Gallery at the top, because what this will do, this is going to give me access to all of these choices with a preview of how it'll look. So first thing you notice, I'm really like zoomed in pretty far here because the zoom at the bottom left here is set at 100%, and we're working with a large image. So what I want to do is I'm going to zoom out here so I can see what's going on. And now I'm just going to play around. Now you can add more than one filter at a time, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, and you can adjust each filter. So say I like this colored pencil thing, but it's just too much right now. If I kind of turn some of these things down to see what happens, so you can see that made it even worse. There you go. That's kind of getting back to more of a normal picture. And then again, as I play with these, I'm totally changing that effect. So that almost looks like a completely different effect than I had when I first started. Now let's say I like that, but I want to add something else. If you notice at the bottom here, here's that colored pencil one I added. I must have did a cutout one earlier. And what I'll do now, I'm going to add one more here just to kind of show you how I did that. So I hit the new layer button, and then as I click on these other ones, same deal. I can keep adding them. I can turn on and off, and just kind of keep adding as many of these as I want. Once I'm happy, I hit OK, and that project has now been updated with that filter. This is done and ready to post.